Welcome to Be Now for Tuesday, January 24th. I'm Don McLeod, and this show was supposed to be talking to Ward 3 and 4 Councillor Dennis Keenan, but apparently a couple hours before the show, he realized he had a conflicting, I don't know what, but he's going to be rescheduled going forward. So joining me now is my normal co-host, Fazal Khan.
I am always normal, Don.
Well, sometimes there's an AB normal, young friend AB normal.
Yeah. So I think Councillor Keenan probably heard I was going to have the Sizzler segment on, so maybe he got scared.
I think he was scared basically because there was an opportunity there that your Sizzler thing, you were going to grill him on a few things.
The banning this and the banning that.
Well, let's see. He banned fireworks. He was supporting banned fireworks. He was supporting banning lawn signs, right?
I was going to give him something else to ban.
Oh yeah,
leaf blowers.
Oh, leaf blowers. You wanted them to ban. So basically, is this the banning councillor? I mean, is he going to ban dancing in the streets? Is this going to be like Footloose sort of thing? Is like this councillor ban happy? What do you think, Faz?
I guess we'll find out. What else can we ban in the city?
Well, there's a lot of things we can ban. You wanted to ban leaf blowers. Yeah. Like, I don't understand the fetish of leaf blowers at this point. Like, do you have someone using a leaf blower in your neighborhood right now? Is that the idea?
Well, this is a good segue into our agenda because the very last thing on our agenda is a new segment called Ban Leaf Blowers. And so we'll go through some video of and try to get your feedback. And they're going to be very compelling videos. So you're going to have to wait till the end. But before that, we're also going to talk about a few of the things we were going to try to talk to Councillor Keenan about, which is the new ice refrigeration for Gage Park and how much that's going to cost and how long it's going to take. We're also going to talk to them about banning fireworks, but
we've already covered that. But the councillor, that was something that the councillor supported, so we wanted to talk about that with him. But I guess we'll have to do that.
You know what, Mike? I don't watch hockey anymore. I stopped decades ago when I got tired of the Leafs losing. But I thought they were doing well this season. No, am I wrong?
Well, put it this way: it's the old adage. It's the Leafs are just like the fall. Something like they're like it's the Leaf season is always like autumn. They fall in the playoffs or whatever. I'm not sure, but it's like when they get to the playoffs, they fold. It's just simple.
Who was the last team to win, Don? Was it the Leafs or was it the Bills?
Oh, the Bills haven't won a Super Bowl. That's so fun. But the Leafs haven't won since 1967, so that's a pretty, that's a pretty long streak. In the meantime, Montreal's won a Stanley Cup, since then. They won in 1994.
For our regular viewers, if you don't already know, because if you follow Don on Twitter, he's a Bills fan. I guess you've recovered, Don.
Well, you know what? Someone's got to win. Someone's got to lose. That's just the way it is. It's another season next year, and we'll see what happens. But, if you're, you got to stay with your team. Win or lose, you got to stay with your team. Ask a Leaf fan, right? They've been doing this since 1967.
And I'm a Raptors fan, and it's been a tough season. But, I enjoy the games. All I want is the players to try hard. Whatever team you have. You just got to deal with it. But you can tell when a team is trying and when they're not trying. I don't know about the Bills. Yeah, the problem I have with football and even like the World Cup soccer, it's like one game and you're done. You have a bad game, you're done. You're over, right?
Well, it's a playoffs, buddy. It's like that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, right? But in baseball and in
they have a series. But I mean, you're talking football. You can't have a 3-game series with a football. Yeah. It's like holy Christ.
Okay, so also talk about the Peel Police budget.
The Peel Police budget, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're going to talk about some of the upcoming events in the city. So let's get back to the ice.
Yeah, so this is on the agenda for tomorrow, Council. It was a budget amendment, basically. We had talked about this before about is the Gage Park refrigerated? And I had said no, and you had said yes. Well, now we know that the Gage Park ice track is refrigerated underneath there. But the last time...
So just to clarify, Don.
Yes.
I was right and you were wrong on that, right?
Well, I was incorrect. Put it that way.
Okay.
I was mistaken. How's that? Apparently, the first part of that, it was originally built in 1990, that refrigeration plant. So It's been there for quite a while. I'm surprised it lasted that long, to tell you the truth. But the motion before council tomorrow is to go ahead with. They're going to rip up the existing tract, the refrigeration plant, concrete ice pad, complete with embedded refrigeration tubing and underground refrigeration distributing. Piping will be replaced. So that is going to screw up that whole area for the summer for sure. I know that last summer they were doing stuff in the park as well. So if they're going to do anything more in the park, they need to do everything in one shot. I don't see why they do it every year, right? It just makes no sense to me.
Well, I was listening to the discussion at the Committee of Council, which was last week.
Yep.
Long meeting, and that's the only part I seem to have tuned into. And so yeah, it's going to disrupt the park, but I think some of it still will be usable. But I'm not like
well, I mean, you're ripping up that pad. I mean, you know, it's the internal budget. The funding available is like $2.8 million for this project.
Well, and it's mostly the refrigeration unit. Apparently, it can go at any time, so even this season could be lost if it goes. And if they don't change it now, definitely it's even at a higher risk next season. So the councillors were advocating, let's just get it all done now.
Yeah.
And specifically, the mayor was saying in Toronto, the rinks. Why are the rinks open earlier than in Brampton? When Brampton is typically at least a degree or two colder, right? And at the Gage Park, the reason was because the ice surface has to be layered, like frozen in layers, because there's no like you don't flood it to freeze it. You have to build it up in layers. So it takes longer. But with the new refrigeration unit, it's supposed to freeze faster because it has more cooling capacity. So I think staff were to go back during the week to see if they could make it so that you can flood some part of it. But then the argument from staff was it's going to be a tripping hazard when it's not flooded. So there were those kinds of conversations. And then I think the cost went up like $600,000.
Yeah, they did. It was like $500,000 or something like that, close, because of, you know, obviously when you're getting a quote 2 years ago, this was apparently passed to do this. It was passed in 2020 and 2021 budgets, right? Yeah. So we're talking almost 3 years ago, and you know what the prices have done in regards to that. Any kind of project that you're looking to do, it only increases as the time goes on. I've never seen a project that decreases over time.
Especially in this economy, right?
Well, yeah, but it's like, you're always going to get, increased, increased labor costs, increased costs across the board. So it doesn't say when they're supposed to be starting. It says April 2022, they passed the resolution, but it doesn't say when they're supposed to be starting.
Well, I think it's supposed to get started at the very end of the skating season, and then it should be ready by November. But if they start changing it, because I think one of the things I think Councillor Fortin was asking was, can they, while they're digging it up, like put electrical connections? Because apparently the Jazz Festival needs a lot of electricity.
Oh, yeah.
It's difficult in that park. So, they might be changing the whole scope of it, which will delay it for sure.
Well, you saw when they had the festival of lights and everything down there for New Year's Eve, like the back part of that Gage Park, there's the lighting is terrible. And if you want to have special lighting and stuff like that, like they do have in Mississauga, with that laser park and stuff like that, you need outlets, right? So it's a good point by Councillor Fortini to actually put stuff in there that, yeah, you can run under. It doesn't have to be deep underground. I mean, you can have a cable just 2 feet underground that's running through a conduit that's got a box that comes up on next to a tree or a pole or something, right?
Are you an electrician, Don?
I've done all my electrical in the house, yes, and I used to work with electricians, so I know exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
Right? So yeah, that's something on the agenda for tomorrow. That's a big
one. I think from what I can tell, like council is going to pass whatever staff does as long as it's done properly. So it's not going to be cheap, but I think that's that's probably one of the most important attractions in the city is the Gage Park skating rink. So it should be done well. One of the things I would love to add, if I were a councillor, is most people who go there who are driving in, for a day or an afternoon at Gage Park, they have to park on the ground at City Hall. And that walkway up in the parking is it's nasty, right?
Yeah, I know. It's got to be cleaned up.
Yeah, and that's I don't think that maybe it would cost a lot. I don't know, but the
I don't know.
concrete,
Nelson
it
Street
smells.
Garage is the same way. If you go to
Yeah,
Nelson Street parking, it's like that area there is like just nasty.
like we get people from across the city, and like that should be the top notch. It's the only real attraction we have, and when you park and you walk up there, it's got to look really impressive, and it
Yeah,
doesn't.
that needs a makeover big time. Like I said, same with the Nelson Street Garage. If you go into there, like up there, that's a nasty garage, especially the walkway and everything else.
Yeah.
That needs to be cleaned up. The other thing is, like parks. Whenever I go to Europe, I always bring up Europe because you know what, they're way ahead of North America in regards to making sure citizens and their citizens enjoy the city and what it has to offer. When I go over to parks there, especially, in Paris, France, or, Barcelona, Madrid, they have these little stations inside. And this is what I proposed years ago for Gage Park and for Chinguacousy Park. They have, operated little sort of areas in there that people can actually buy a coffee or sandwich, and they're independently operated by people that run it. And, they have a whole, they obviously buy a license to operate there. But they're little huts and everything else that people can actually grab a coffee, a cocoa, a quick snack and stuff like that. That brings people down there, right? It brings people down to that core. And then when they're skating, it's nice if you're, skating around and stuff like that and it's cold, stop, have a coffee, just something.
Yeah, and extend that idea into the downtown as well, right? Because that was one of the big criticisms I had with the New Year's Eve event is you couldn't get a hot chocolate down there anywhere.
Well, you couldn't get a coffee or anything until a certain amount of time, right? So anyway.
Okay. All right. Next topic, Don, is the police budget. And so this was discussed last week at Regional Council. And so do you think the police want more officers, Don, or less?
Well, I know that they want more because Patrick Brown advocated for that, saying, basically we are underfunded as in regards to other cities across Canada. Forget about Ontario, but
let me put up that slide here.
Yeah.
So yeah, on a per like 100, I guess it's not per capita, but per
100,000 population. Yep.
Peel Region, and I was mentioning this to somebody else today. We are actually one of the safest large urban centers in Canada, which means probably in North America as well. So, although we have increasing crime, it's not like in Brampton, we've doubled as a city in population in 20 years. The crime has not doubled, right? Yeah, it's increased, but it's not doubled. So that can explain why we don't have as many officers for our population. But I think we all realize crime is increasing. You every day, like today, there was a stabbing on the TTC again, right? It's like this is constant in Toronto. And I don't know if it's kind of curious because we're hearing about all this crime in Toronto just about the time when, Toronto was asking for 100 new officers. I don't think they can. I'm not saying anybody's causing it. I'm just saying I think a lot of crime is happening and doesn't get reported, but it just so happens now it's getting reported.
Well, we know that the Peel Regional Police, when they did the delegation, to the Peel Region in regards to getting more fund and capital funding, they admitted, and this was going back to Jennifer Evans when she was the chief of police, 70 to 80% of the calls are domestic violence, and that type of violence. So yes, we have a pretty low per capita crime rate. And I know that because when we ran the Neighborhood Watch program for 3 years, we interacted with the police on a regular basis, and we know the crime stats. There was a lot of break-ins. There was a lot of car thefts at that time as well. And
that's the stuff that worries people, right?
Yeah,
is when your property is violated, when your house is violated, it just and a lot of people we would talk to back then, they would try to live in their home, but it always seems that they would move out of there because it causes pain. My parents' house was broken into. I had a car that was stolen when I was younger. I remember the details, right? It's like, how could this possibly happen? So, I think on a monthly basis in Peel Region, it's 400 or 500 or 600 cars being stolen, like 10 to 20 a day. And it's considered a priority 4 type of crime. So there's 1, 2, and 3. which includes things like murder, I'm assuming, obviously. And then 4 is below that. So Mayor Brown had asked the chief when he was presenting to council for 70 new officers, are these 70 officers going to have a noticeable impact on investigation of auto theft? Because a lot of people are calling in that their car was stolen and the police not even showing up anymore. And the chief basically said it will help with the investigation of organized auto theft,
right?
But not individual auto thefts.
No, individual you
That is
can.
an
It's
issue.
like, yeah, absolutely. It's like if your house gets broken into and your stuff gets stolen, how many times do people actually get their recovered goods back?
Right.
It's probably 5-10% max, maybe, but the majority never see that stuff again.
But at the same time, one of the big issues is people being put on hold for 911. And so they're adding civilian staff for that. The chief actually said he's asking for 70 officers. He said, to get back to where they need to be, they should be adding 300 officers. And so I think Mayor Brown said, I think to the chief, well, first of all, he called it a muscular ask.
Right.
But then he said, he's concerned that the chief is not asking for enough resources. So I think next year we're going to even have a bigger increase. And as you know, in Toronto, there's a lot of opposition to more police. People want to see money going into kind of social programs, community programs to address the increase in crime from the source perspective, as opposed to, after it's happened. So I'm pretty confident in Peel anyways, after we see this stat. We don't, you compare to our neighbors down to the south there, that number is going to be increasing in Toronto, right? Because if they get their 100 officers, and Peel will be even further behind. So there's no chance. And from what I understand, there are some councillors, regional councillors, that are against increasing the budget, but I think politically that's in our region, that's not a good.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, how many, we have federal MPs, right, that we know. And one of the big things that the police chiefs talked about, and this is all across Canada, was the amount of smuggled illegal guns coming into the country. And, with Justin Trudeau talking about, banning assault rifles and so on and so forth, all the gun owners are in arms, but most of the smuggled guns, and we covered this before when Jennifer Evans was the chief of police as well. We talked about the guns. We had an interview with them, with the guns and gangs, and talking about, the amount of smuggled guns coming in from the United States. And this was like 8 years ago. And it's still a valid concern for most police chiefs, saying, this is where they're coming from, right? And not only that,
but how do you, we've got a huge border, Don. And, I think a couple of years ago, we were hearing stories about people using drones to transfer guns, right? So even if it gets caught, the person is like kilometers.
Well, here's the thing as well that ties into that is like a lot of and I know Patrick Brown was one of the people talking about it as well. Since, the federal minimum requirements for jail sentence was someone caught with a gun in a crime or smuggling guns, they should have a minimum sentence, and a federal minimum sentence coming down saying, 5 years automatically if you're, added onto your sentence if you're caught, using a gun in the committing of a crime. So that's a federal jurisdiction. There's also a provincial jurisdiction.
Those things sound good though, right? But is that going to stop a 16-year-old kid from trying to get his hands on a gun? And I'm sure if you look at the stats too, a lot of these crimes are probably being done by underage boys who aren't licensed, and because it's the cool thing to do, right?
Well, and that segues into, again, we talked to guns and gangs, and that's one of the reasons why Patrick Brown wanted to see CATV cameras on the 410 and going north, because a couple of years ago there was a bunch of shootings. And what happens is when a city starts to expand like Brampton, it's new. They're building new houses. A lot of people don't know their neighbors, and that's where gangs infiltrate from cities like Toronto, and they infiltrate out here. They set up human trafficking houses. They set up drug houses up here. And it's, again, one of the reasons why we started Neighborhood Watch, because knowing your neighbor is the first thing. If you're in a new neighborhood that's being built out in 26 or 910, how many people actually know their neighbors or who's moving in next door?
Right. And, especially in communities where they're like 3-car garage houses, obviously there's valuables in those houses as well. So if I keep telling people, if I was a criminal, Don, look out, look out. You don't have to put too much brain thought into figuring out where.
Well,
where the money-
I will make sure that Chief Nish knows that you have actually,
Would I steal a brand new Land Rover, Don, or my 15-year-old minivan? Which one would I steal, Don?
Yeah,
if I was
because the Land Rovers have a bigger resale value overseas. Just like I think the top stolen cars, obviously, you're dealing with Mercedes, Land Rover, and so on and so forth. But there was one car in there that really, it was like a Ford F-150 truck or something like that. And I'm like,
that's I think. If I could be wrong, maybe somebody can tell us. I think the F-150 is actually the most, in terms of volume, the most popular vehicle in Canada, but also in terms of theft, it's up there as well.
Yeah, because most of them are transported over to countries where, number one, they could actually use them to haul stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
auto thefts is a big deal, and unless something is done, adding more police is not going to help you with.
Well, you can't put a police, like we covered town halls before in regards to auto thefts. Was always a big one, and it was like a situation where, what are the police going to do? Like they can't put a police on every single corner. It's make sure your car's locked. Don't warm it up.
Yeah, you got to reduce the opportunity for a thief
right.
to target you, right? So if you're going to buy a brand new vehicle and put it on your driveway, and leave your key fob near the door where the signal can be stolen, good luck.
Well, either that or make sure you have security cameras, and like part of it is a responsibility of yourself as well. And that's a big thing. Have security cameras, and make sure that you don't warm up the car and leave it running in the driveway. And it's like I don't have my wallet hanging out of my back pocket ready to be stolen.
Yes. Okay, Don. We spoke a lot about crime. And one of the reasons we started Be Now was to kind of be the central place to know what's happening.
Mike Dancy, if elected, I don't know elected to what, but.
He said if elected to be a host of this show.
NFL team to Brampton. The Brampton Bruisers or the Brampton Boozers. We'll have to figure out a name for that.
I'm putting this back up here because I don't know what's going on with Mike and flashlights. Well, I think he's becoming the flashlight guy. I think companies are sending him flashlights. I saw security kick him off or talk to him about flashing his light on the CN Tower during the holidays. So, Mike, let us know if you're now the new international champion of flashlights.
Well, maybe the light will come on upstairs. You know what I mean?
Okay, so as I was saying, now we wanted Be Now to be a place where you can find out what's going on in the city, and we're nowhere near being able to do that. But today we're going to start and kind of highlight some of the things at least going on in the city, because those are really refined. So the first one, Don, is a flag raising event to celebrate India's Republic Day. So that is happening Thursday at City Hall. And just if anybody at City Hall is watching, I couldn't find the time when that's happening, so I'm not sure where I was supposed to be looking. So
this Thursday, you're saying?
Yeah. Okay. I'm hunkering down for the big snowstorm, Don. So I'm not expecting to travel anywhere Thursday. So that might. I
don't think there's a snowstorm. They said snow tomorrow, not on Thursday.
I thought it was going to start Wednesday evening, and which means Thursday. No,
not from not what I heard.
Snowmageddon has been canceled. Is that what you're saying?
Well, hopefully, yes.
And what about the polar vortex? I heard something about it.
There's the weather's supposed to get cold. It's supposed to come across the prairies, but the colder the weather, the less the snow.
Okay.
You don't have snow in minus 20-degree temperatures.
What do you have?
Just have cold.
Where does all the water vapor go?
Too cold for snow.
You're an electrician and a meteorologist?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, next item up is the Lunar New Year. I think the Lunar New Year was Saturday, maybe Sunday.
I thought it was yesterday.
No, it was on the weekend.
Oh,
anyways, it's going to be celebrated in Brampton.
Okay.
At
City Hall.
City Hall at 5:00, and that's always a good event because there's I love the dragons and stuff and the music and food. There's food being provided by Nine Queen, which is a restaurant in the downtown.
Yeah, that's just up the road. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's next? So It's a month late, I think, but the New Year's levy with City Council and the mayor is happening on Sunday at 2:00. I've never been to a levy, Don, and you have, so maybe
It's just an opportunity to meet, the mayor, city councilors, and all that kind of stuff. So if you're basically a citizen of Brampton and you want to meet your city councilor, your regional councilor, your mayor, it's just an opportunity. They have a greeting line to come down, wish them well, ask them any questions that you have. Normally, New Year's Eve levy is
complain on my neighbors and stuff and ask questions about stuff like that.
You can do whatever you want. Pictures? You can do. They're totally accessible. They're in the line. You got to do the lineup. I don't know if they're going to be doing the lineup like before, but they did have a lineup, and you could line up, and
And do you know last year did they, because of the pandemic?
I don't think they've done it for 2 years. I don't think they've done it for 2 years.
All right. And will there be food done?
I think the last time,
because I'm not going if there's not food.
Well, that might be a good opportunity for you to, maybe shed a few pounds, right?
I told everybody on the show, one of my New Year's resolution was to lose that. I think I said how much. Did I tell you? Did I say how much?
Did you say 50 pounds?
I did. Yeah. By my birthday in June. So I've lost 1.5.
Last time they had.
That could just be the water I didn't drink, but
Karen says the last time they had cupcakes.
Oh, I'm not eating cupcakes.
Why not?
My willpower is stronger than that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right, and then after the levy, Don, there's a community skate. Assuming the refrigeration unit in Gage Park is working, which I think it is, at 4:00. There's also some musical entertainment. We were talking about this last week, Don. I think Councillor Santos and her group called Point of Order will be there.
Point of Order. How many are in that group?
Councillors, just one of them, just Councillor Santos.
Thank God.
Oh,
so Don. The other ones are qualified musicians. Is that
I think they all have other jobs, Don. So I'm not sure where you're going with this, but if I were you, I would just stop. Okay, yeah. So community consent, and so that's all I have. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4 events listed. Obviously, there's lots more happening in the city, and if you know of anything more happening for our show next week, let us know. We want to start promoting these things, have some graphics, maybe even have a calendar on the website. So I look forward to that.
Well, I do have something before we leave, because we were talking about there is a possibility that we might see a special dance, like you talked about the band routine at the New Year's levy with the mayor. Yeah. There might be a possibility that this might be happening as well. We might be blessed with Nikki Cedron. What do you think of that, Cuz?
I think that would be a big draw. So if Nikki's watching, or if you're watching later, Nikki, please show up. We will bring our cameras to tape you.
Yes, and if Rowena's singing, you can do the dancing, and that would be something for the ages.
Oh, right? Okay. But we're not done yet, Don. Remember, I said we have a new segment.
Oh, what's a new segment?
Band leaf blowers.
Oh, the band leaf blowers.
So I don't have fancy graphics, but I do have a video. So let's watch this video and talk about it afterwards.
All right.
So this is the lowest setting of the electric one, and we can move it to the bigger setting. As you notice, it's quite a bit slow. To do the same distance, and you can see the difference in how clean this is to this. So if you were dealing with liability in the wintertime, which one would you want to use?
Which one would you want to use if you're dealing with liability in the winter, Don?
What's he talking about, liability in the wintertime?
if you had to clear snow, would you want to clear it with the
Who
gas?
clears snow with a snowblower in the wintertime?
Exactly, Don, with a leaf blower.
Yeah, but
That's
what's he
why we need
talking
to ban
about?
these things.
Yeah,
That
but
was
what-
in Calgary, City TV in Calgary, because they're considering in Calgary banning leaf blowers.
Okay, well, this guy's an idiot. Number one, like who blows snow off their grass in the middle of winter? You're an idiot.
That's what people are doing with the gas-powered leaf blowers, right? And
What,
so they're
in your
comparing it there
neighborhood?
to electric leaf blowers, and making the electric leaf blower look bad. It's equally powerful. But his argument was, oh, if you put it on the maximum setting, the battery will finish quickly.
Yeah, okay. What liability is he talking about? People walking on your grass and slipping because of snow? What are you, an idiot?
All leaf blowers, Don, are idiots.
Oh, jeez. Okay, well,
Okay.
you're on a crusade here, and the crusade is basically a one-man crusade tilting at the windmills
The entire
of
city of Calgary might ban it, Don.
well,
And this
you know,
Calgary,
Calgary.
do they even have grass here? It's like snow 90%.
Have you been to Calgary?
No, I haven't.
No. Okay. There's a reason people live in Calgary and live in Winnipeg. Okay, there's a reason.
It's not because of the leaves.
No.
It's because of the snow.
Yeah.
And mosquitoes.
Yeah. Well, Winnipeg is mosquitoes. It's like built around an entire mosquito haven.
I have been to Winnipeg. I actually liked it, the parts of it that I saw.
Oh,
Yeah. Nice tree-lined street by the university. It was actually quite nice.
yeah. Go there in wintertime, in the springtime when the when the thaw hits and the mosquitoes start to come out.
Okay.
Right? You'll
All
love
right,
it.
we're overtime again.
Okay, so you know what? We're back on the last day of January. I think January 31st is next Tuesday.
Do we have any guests scheduled for that?
Well, let's see if Dennis Keenan can actually reschedule on that day to be able to be available to do your Sizzler episode. We'll see what he's up to.
I think it's coming on the show obviously should be free, but there should be a deposit if you don't come on the show. We keep
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that idea, Faz. Money making.
All right, Don. See you next week.
All right, thank you for watching.